Hello everyone, this is a quick video on disclosure requirements when selling a home. Ordinarily, the legal presumption is buyer beware, meaning that the buyer should satisfy themselves insofar as possible that the property is in the condition that they are bargaining for. Now, the seller is not legally obligated to disclose anything subject to certain restrictions and requirements. Now, there's two types of defects that can be found in a property. You've got defects that are patent in nature and defects that are latent in nature. A patent defect is one that is readily observable. This could include, for example, a broken window, a crack in the foundation wall, and things that you should be able to uncover ordinarily. Now, if you conduct a home inspection by a qualified home inspector and the inspector fails to uncover such a defect, you may be able to hold them accountable for that defect that they failed to uncover. When it comes to the seller, and going back to latent defects are invisible defects that cannot be uncovered through a reasonable inspection. Now, the seller's technically and legally at the moment not obligated to disclose this pursuant to the case law. This would include things like murders and suicides, ghosts and haunted properties, and the reason that they don't have to disclose these things is because this doesn't render the property uninhabitable or unsafe for occupancy, or at least that's what the law is right now. In the future, this may change. That being said, to kind of give you more examples of latent defects are things that you cannot uncover through a reasonable inspection, as we've already discussed. So this could include, for example, a wall that is sinking, a roof that might be caving in, and other things like that that may be a little bit more difficult to uncover. Insofar as the law is concerned, the seller is only obligated to disclose latent defects that renders the property unsafe for occupancy or uninhabitable. So there was a case, for example, whereby the load-bearing wall was missing a post and the house was sinking. Now, the seller was aware of this, and they did not disclose this to the buyer. In this situation, this may constitute as fraud, and the buyer may have a claim against the seller for failing to disclose such a thing. Otherwise, the legal presumption, as we've discussed, only concerns the buyer and the buyer's ability to conduct their own due diligence. So if you're a purchaser purchasing a home, conduct your own due diligence and uncover anything and everything you can. If your home inspector fails to uncover something, you may have a claim against that individual. Alternatively, if the defect is latent in nature and renders the property uninhabitable, the seller will be obligated to disclose that to you, failing which they will be in breach of their obligations. Now, there is a certain type of defect that should also be accounted for. In the event that the seller is aware of something that is latent and they take active steps to conceal those latent defects, this will also typically constitute as fraud. So if the seller interferes with the buyer's ability to conduct their own due diligence, they may be held accountable for such things. So again, to recap, the seller is not obligated to disclose if there's a murder or a suicide or a death in the property. Buyers can take active steps to insert clauses in their schedules whereby they have the seller represent and warrant that there have been no murders and suicide, but the current state of the law is to the effect that the sellers are not obligated to disclose these things. If you are a purchaser and you have hired a real estate sales representative, or you're purchasing a property privately, through the various legislation we have available to us, you may be able to obtain this information from a police station. You may be able to Google the property address and figure out if there are certain things that are not being disclosed to you. I hope this helps, and if you have any questions or concerns, you can contact me directly. Thank you.